Hey guys, thanks for joining me. This is Graham from Shipment from Shiloh, and I've got a new video series that I want to try out. Uh, it's basically all about trying to use up cards in a possible deck in a way that you have not used before, specifically before those cards rotate. And because we're trying to check off boxes on our Netrunner bucket list, I'm calling this Dean Bucket Lister. So for this first episode, we are going to take a closer look at a classic prepaid voice pad. This is out of Second Thoughts in the Spin Cycle, so it's not going to be around for that much longer. But there's a specific reason why I'm pulling prepaid out. And that is because a long time ago, I wanted to make a Quetzal deck in Anarch. And I did not know how to do that, and I kept feeling like I was really poor, and I was like, well, prepaid's a good money card, so I tried to make this deck, and it was terrible. But the only good thing about it was the name, because I called it the Pretzel deck. Prepaid Quetzal, so good. So now that I have matured in my deck building, and now that we have access to a very large card pool, I thought I'd give it another shot. So let's take a look at this list here. Again, I'm calling this Pretzel because of prepaid and Quetzal. And, well, let's just kind of dig in here. Obviously, if we're using prepaid voice pad, then we're going to need some events, right? Well, let's talk about the money events. Obviously, Sure Gamble and Dirty Laundry. Also, prepaid Kate used to use Lucky Find. I would put in more if I had more influence, but it is pretty hard to squeeze those in at 2 pips a piece. So I do have Deuces Wild. In Prepaid Kate, you had Diesel and Quality Time to try to draw a lot of cards, and I could put Quality Time in here, but I'm going to try Deuces Wild first because it's got the draw 2 cards ability. And then obviously the Expose effect is great, but it does allow us to turn our recurring prepaid credits into real credits. Speaking of Diesel and drawing cards, I've had worse does cost a pip, so now, or does cost a credit, so now it's free if you can use the prepaid credits on it. And then the next best suite of Anarch cards is going to be the Cutlery, and all of those cost 1 or 2 credits. So I've got 1 Forked, 2 Knifed, and 2 Spooned. Knifed because there's actually some troublesome barriers that are out there now, and Quetzal can only break 1 barrier sub per turn, so using Knifed is going to help clear those out. And then Spooned, I have 2 of those because Code Gates are a bear, and I really want to get some of those big nasty Code Gates off the table. Honestly, only 1 Forked. We're going to give it a shot, but I don't see a lot of really nasty sentries out and about, so we'll do that. And once upon a time I read a deck review or a deck description that talked about Wanton Destruction and how he felt, or the writer felt, that Wanton was almost as good as something like an Account Siphon, whereas Account Siphon you're trying to maintain a credit advantage over your opponent. Wanton Destruction really helps do a card advantage. So I said, okay, well, why not? To recur Wontons, we've got 3 Deja Vu, which will hopefully only be costing us 1 or 0 credits to get back those. And in terms of recursion, I also have 1 Same Old Thing, because you don't want to use Same Old Thing with Wanton. It's using up too many of your clicks, and Wanton requires you to spend clicks. And then the 1 Same Old Thing is going to help us make sure that we get our levy, even if it gets dinged out of our hand due to damage or something. Now, I'm not sure if the levy is going to be totally necessary, but I know that Prepaid Kate ran a levy to kind of recharge all of the money, and it's going to give us a ton of recursion for these high-impact events, so I said, sure, why not? We'll give it a shot. We're relying really heavily on the Cutlery events, and so the advantage of that means that we might not need much more than a single than AI breakers. So I've got 3 Eater and 2 David. There's only a couple ice in the game right now that cannot be broken with these two, and one of them is Swordsman, and the other one is Touring. Oh, actually, no, Touring, if it's on a remote, can be broken with David. So obviously that would be a great spoon to target. For the purposes of this experiment, I'm just going to assume that no one's playing Swordsman. I mean, it's terrible. I could throw in a Mimic, probably. That would also help with stuff like Architect that can't be trashed, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. This is definitely just a draft, and we're going to give this a shot here. So because we're trashing so much stuff, I've got an immolation script so that if we knock a piece of ice out of hand, or if they've got just a ton of this particular nuisance of an ice, that I might be able to trash something very easily that way. And what else we got? Oh, well, we got Keyhole, because that works really well with Eater, and it's better R&D pressure than basically anything except for Medium. So and because we're binning so much stuff, I thought, let's throw in some Archives Interface, and that'll get rid of a lot of the nuisance cards that I don't really want to have to deal with. It also prevents people from being able to friends back all the ice that I trashed. And it also will get rid of the Friends at High Places itself. So common include in Quetzal decks is going to be your E3 feedback, so that she can break multiple subroutines on a barrier. It also synergizes really well with David, only having to spend one David counter and then using E3 to break the rest. That way you can use one David. Maybe you hit a Fairchild 3, so you use one David counter plus 2 E3s. You get through it. Then later you can spoon it, use the second David counter, and 2 more E3 credits. So I think there's a lot of complementary effects there. And then lastly, a little bit of tech. I've got a Film Critic, because if you have a brain and are sane, I think you need to be running Film Critic right now. And then Bagat, one of my favorites, and if I'm going to be hammering Wonton, I think Bagat could find some space there. Only one, I would love to have 2, but I'm trying to keep our deck a little bit lean, because otherwise I'm just going to go out of control. So, so anyway, let's head on over to Cyberdeck's trial and give this guy a spin, huh?